Are you ready, Drake?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Well, dude, appreciate you making the time to come on and let people learn about your experiences, right? Because the purpose of this podcast, there's only two ways in life we can get experience. We're either lucky enough to learn about it from somebody else's, or we have to go through that ourselves. And one way or the other becomes a part of us, and we'll internalize it. I This is the first time that we're actually ever seeing each other because
Yeah.
we've known each other for I called you about a year ago, right? And
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
connected. And at the time I was with Citywide, right? So it's like I cold called you, right? Like I've gotten really I love cold calling. I actually did it already today a bit, and I connected with a new friend at a company. We talked for 30 minutes. Actually, no, 40 minutes. And I think we need to put ourselves out there more and take more risks, right? And it's only through doing it for so long, experience, right? That I feel so comfortable and maybe don't have shame around it anymore. I have really appreciated your demeanor. Like even from the first conversation we had, you are laid back, right? So you just said that, right? I think that you're very even and balanced, and you make it really easy to like you.
Well, I
And
appreciate that.
of course, well, some people make it hard, right? Or don't like, you never know what goes around, right? What goes around comes around in karma and all of that. And it is surprising to me how many people don't see value in going out of their way, even sometimes just a little bit, to be more kind. Because I don't think that we know, right? If we're as salespeople, sometimes we're interrupting people, right? Like, whatever it is, from following up to whatever, right? Like, it's important that sometimes I think keep it in perspective. So, let's do kind of a cheesy question, right? But to go back a little bit, right? Like, you probably didn't always dream about being a loan officer necessarily, right? So, what was the dream, right? Like, if you can think about that, like, growing up, like, what was a dream you had about what you wanted to do as a career?
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
life?
So I played, football is my passion. I mean, it's still, I mean, I always say I don't have any hobbies except for watching football during football season and analyzing football. But yeah, it's not really a hobby, but it's all I've got. So, but, so when I was a kid, football was my passion then. And I remember drawing plays up in like seventh grade. Like I knew I wanted to be a football coach. And so that's what I grew up wanting to do. Went to college, played football at Arkansas Tech, which is a Division II school here. And then when I got done with that, I got into coaching, and the goal was always, be a 7A big time head coach. And that's, be a Hall of Fame coach and just, have the great career, all these things. And so I started working my way through and became a head coach pretty young at 25, and was a football coach for 10 years. And actually, when I got out of coaching, I got offered a 6A head coaching job, which was, the dream. Like, it's here, it's the dream. And then I had the chance, but let me back up. I'd had my daughters. I've got two little girls. And when I had them, my mindset shifted on my goals. And coaching is so much time. If you're going to do it right, it's so much time. And those guys work so hard. And high school coaches are underpaid for the amount of time that they put in. So I was in education, and I was thinking, okay, well, maybe administration. I want to shift and go administration route. So I got offered this 6A head coaching job. And instead of doing it, I took an assistant principal job at my alma mater. And I did that for a year, and I figured out real quick, if I'm going to be in education, I'm going to be coaching ball. I'm not going to be doing this. And the guy who did my home loan on my house at the time, me and him got to be chummy. I know that's a shock because I'm not a talker or anything. So me and him got to be chummy during that process. And I was just looking for a way out of education in general. And so I texted him and said, hey man, and I had a coaching buddy that was, working in the same company as he was. So he told the guy that did my home loan, and the guy was like, Drake, the coach? And he was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, he'd be great. We need to get him on. So anyway, I go meet with him and the owner of the company I'm at now. And they're like, yeah, man, this will be a great fit. So I did the principal deal for a year and shifted over, scared to death, went full commission right off the bat and said, let's just rip the Band-Aid off and do it. And it was sink or swim, and we swam. So
okay, dang. I guess talking about experience, because that to me, I always like to say, right, you want to level up, right? Get married, right? Obviously, right? Like get in a relationship, that kind of thing. And then when you want to level up, start having kids, right? First kid, second kid, third kid. I have 3 kids. How many kids you got?
2.
Okay.
Yep.
So you had your daughters. And so you were in that principal position for a year, and you had your daughters up to this point, right? And I'm sure that taught you a little bit about, well, you said it kind of changed your vision, right? Can you share a little bit more about how that made you, how did it change your vision for what you wanted to do and why, I guess?
For me, time was more important. So my last year coaching, we had my second daughter, and she was a baby during that time. And I was having to FaceTime my kids on Thursdays and Fridays and Mondays for JV games, junior high games, senior high games, because we had to be at all those. And so I'm having, in order to see them at all, because I would leave before they were awake, and then I would FaceTime them at night. So I'm thinking, I'm going to miss my kids growing up because I'm doing all this all the time. And so for me, my goals then became, I want to be the best dad in the world, and I want to be able to provide them with anything they want. And so financially, what's going to get us there and also give me time. And that was how this turned out to be the right option.
Okay. Wow. Very cool. Walk me through how scary that was, because I think for anybody, I've done that. You did that. Like a lot of us do that, is taking that leap, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What was that like? And what was your cushion? Like, did you have a cushion? Like, was your wife working? Maybe not. Was she 100% stay at home?
No.
So what was that? What did that look like? How'd that
Wife
feel?
stays home. So she was supportive, and we had enough in savings where we knew I can go 3 months without closing a loan and we will be able to survive. I didn't want to take a salary because I felt that as a competitive person and a competitor, I felt I would be more pressed and pushed, and I do better under pressure. So I felt like I would be more under pressure to go get more business.
You took away the cushion. A lot of times when people are, well, I guess you were starting out as a loan originator, right? Like sometimes when people are being recruited, right? Like they want both. They're like, oh yeah, like, if my business gets disrupted, when we switch companies. And so they want something like that. And so, well, I guess you went the opposite way, which is you're diving into a little bit more of your competitive nature right there, like you said, to drive that. Okay. And then what was that, I guess, experience like? Because when you get in the business, right, like sometimes we're lucky enough to have people who teach us what to do and how those things are valuable. And sometimes we don't. There's a lot of things we have to go through ourselves, right? And I've always noticed it's depending on, from the company to the place you are in the world to just who you surround yourself with. People have obviously a myriad of different mentors, right? Different influences to help them become successful. What do you think helped you become successful? You did, 160 units, 36 million, right? Like in one of your best years ever. And I think for your market, obviously that's a lot of business, right? And it probably takes a village and a team to even do that much business. So walk me through, like, what were some of the important things that you learned from who and why, and how that helped you feel like get from noob, right, to get that experience?
Yeah. So my manager, Peyton, he's also my best friend. So he stayed with me I went to him constantly. And then my other friend that was here at the time, he's not anymore. Um, that he helped me a lot too. So, and then our regional manager, Russell, would come. He's the one that I was talking about that was my loan officer. He would come down when I started about once a week, and me and him would sit in the office together. And he's like, I mean, he sets a file up. He's so OCD, it's unbelievable. So, and my manager is not as OCD, but he's super smart on how to make anything work. So I kind of took both of them and meshed the idea together. And I was doing good. And I had an LOA. I've had one since I started. I've had a few different ones, but I meshed those two mentalities together. But my manager, Peyton's really the one that helped me grow, because he is the one that really pushed me to stop babying the files. You have an LOA. Your job is to go get more business. It's not to make the most beautiful file on planet Earth. Get what you need in the file, do the pre-approval, and when you get the contract, send it to the LOA, call the customer, tell them how it's going to work and what to expect and who's going to be contacting them, and move on. So really, we treat it like an assembly line now.
Yeah.
And I have the same processor and underwriter on pretty much every file. So we just know we have a flow, and I do the front end work. I build the relationship, lock them in, sell the loan. We get the contract, boom, it goes to the LOA. She sends the email with all the stuff we need, and then boom, it goes to the processor. And we just roll that way. But once I stopped trying to babysit files and worry about conditions and stare at all that stuff and trusted my team, that freed me up to go do more things and get more business and call listing agents on deals that I didn't have a previous
Start
relationship.
business developing, start
Yep.
prospecting. Okay.
Yep.
Just to clarify a little bit, when you say that he was coming to you, trying to, encouraging you, stopping you from babysitting the file, how soon in was that?
Oh gosh, he tried to. Now I had to learn how to do it at first, so he
You got
didn't
to
do
learn how to do a file. You got to learn how the pie is made before you can.
exactly.
How do you know if the pie is any? You can't manage another person and say they're doing a good job if you don't know how to do it.
Exactly. So he the first probably 6 to 8 months, he let me do my thing and do the Russell way, right? The OCD. This is how we're going to set it up, make it clean and beautiful, and it's going to be real smooth. And then he started seeing me grow, and he started seeing me get stressed and semi drowning a little bit. And I'm holding 6 files that we've got to get going because I'm just trying to make them perfect. And he sat me down and was like, listen, I think you're about to explode. And we got to figure out like a fine line there of you got to do it right. You got to make sure the file's good and clean, but you can't make all the little notes and everything that are on this. We got to roll. And so it was, he just knew he could sense that we had something going that was about to blow up, and he had to get ahead of it before I started drowning and was going to kill everyone around me.
And so you said that's about 8 months in. So month
Yeah.
8, 9, 10 is
Yeah.
when this. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
My first year in, I closed over 100 units that first year in 2022. Yeah, 22.
Wow.
So,
Dang. Oh, that's right. Because you said you've only been doing this 5 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
first
Wow.
full year in, I closed like 20 million, I think.
Okay. Wow. And I can only imagine the amount of confidence that gives you, right? Because a lot of people, well, some of the people friends I have now, there's a lack of confidence because maybe they're years in, right? Like, and once the the pie becomes fully baked, right? It's hard to change it. The recipe's kind of there, right? And sometimes that's not true, but I am finding for the most part, right? Once somebody has a way of doing things, are they open to change, right? Getting coached, right? Like through any, some of the coaching organizations out there, and seeing a better way. And I can only imagine some people hate the word scripting, right? But I'd like to ask, because I felt like I kind of heard it. When you have the file and you've gotten it together in the right spot, and then you're helping introduce the customer to your team, right? Is there like a really defined process, like how that looks and how you explain it to the customer?
I used to do this big long email that would lay out, here's what your payment looks like. Here's like everything in there, all that. And here's the processor and introduce you to her, LOA, yada, yada. And then I figured out when I was doing this email, they'd call me later and be like, who's this Tamra person or whatever? And I'd be like, it was in the email. But
I worked so hard on this email that you didn't read.
Yeah. And then my boss, Peyton, is like, stop sending the novel of an email. They're not reading the novel of an email. Just call them. And so I started doing that. And that seems to work way better when I just started calling them and saying, hey, listen, we got you rolling. You got any questions for me? This is what your payment looks like. We're about to send you off. Gracie's going to be reaching out to you, my assistant. She's going to reach out, get any docs we need. And then later on, when it comes out underwriting, you're going to hear from Tamra, and she's my processor. She's going to be, and they'd be like, oh, okay. And once I started doing that, the questions, like I don't hear from them unless they just want to check in and how things are going.
Right. So that whole process of letting go, right? Like it, in a way, obviously, I can only imagine that you're grateful for, but maybe you also don't necessarily know any different. And I know a lot of people who their experience is very different from that, because nowadays it does feel a little preachy when somebody's saying, this is what you need to say, right? And so people don't like that word scripting sometimes, right? I don't mind it. I love learning. I love growth. When I go to a conference, I write things down, I record them, and then I love that because I'm trying to always level up and become better. But for you, again, I feel like maybe your confidence, it just being a part of the process from the beginning and the start, it just became natural to you, right? Like you don't even think about it as scripting, right? Like this is just natural.
It's once you start doing it, you have to do it. Like it's not a script anymore. It's just natural, and it's how you do things. It's part of your process. And because I was the same way. I was like, well, that just seems fake, but it's not. If you can do it it's a scripted plan, but you do it in a genuine, informal type of way is kind of the way you handle that. And I'll tell you this, the transition to letting go and doing what I do now, I mean, I just started doing that probably last year. It took years of him saying, let go, stop babying, stop.
It isn't even overnight, right? So the point right there, right, is even after 5 years in the business, right? And so month 8, 9, 10, you start to improve in the process. You're saying it right now is that it's still being improved on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because perfect doesn't exist. Anybody I know who produces at a high level like yourself, there's always that. There's holes in the boat. There's always holes.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And other people sometimes look at you, and it's kind of like that celebrity feeling almost. They're all like, oh, I could never do 100 million or whatever. And it's like, yeah, you could. It just means you have to let go a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And speak to that really quickly. I think that's something that I haven't heard many people talk about, how that experience was like. So, newer, right? Like 5 years is technically newer, but dude, you're crushing it. So I would never compare you to anybody. Like you're doing great. What's that feeling though of, nobody can do it as well as me, right? Sometimes, right? Like if I want it done right, I have to do it myself type thing.
Yeah.
What was that also maybe like going through this? So that way you could, empower other people to do it. And then did you see that they're just as good as this at you? What was that actually like, that process of, hey, let me hand this off?
I think so. Honestly, I had some decisions I made in my life about 4 years ago, just poor life choices and terrible decisions from just a husband and father standpoint. I was just not I went through, I tell you what, you got to be careful because money can change in a hurry. And so, I kind of had a struggle there personally. And and so then I really dove into my faith and found the Lord and got close with the Lord. And I was a control freak my whole life and still do struggle some with it. But when I got stronger in my faith and really dove into that, it helped out with a lot of my control issues and trusting other people and not being so wound up tight and tense all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's all that long story short to say, I think that helped me let go a little bit. And I just realized I had to trust these people. And also, I had really good people around me. And one of them now, my last assistant, he's a loan officer now. He did 30 million this year. So yeah, he's killing it too. And he was my assistant for 2 years. It was fantastic. And I trusted him. But he also, I was teaching him too, and he was learning how I wanted things done. And so it took, a month or two of him knowing exactly how I wanted things done. And we took off. And now my new assistant, she's picked it up quick too, and she's doing great. So I think you got to have good people that are willing to learn how you want to do it around you. But I also think you have to look inward a little bit and say, what am I doing wrong? Am I being a control freak? Is it irrational that I want to control this so much? Because as well as I do in loans, crap's going to happen. You can't control everything. So
yeah, if you're trying to plan for every contingency, then that's a recipe for just making yourself disappointed later.
Right, exactly. It's just there's something's going to go wrong. So you got to have a contingency plan on some of them, but you're not going to have an answer for everything that comes up. Sometimes you just got to hit it in the face when it comes at you. So I do think though that my faith helped me. My faith really helped me let go some and get rid of.
I mean, that's literally what I wrote. I was like, yeah, like I think that we don't until we've gone through something like that, right? Because that's another one of those experience things. I do believe that if we're not intentional, right? Failing to plan is planning to fail, right? So if you could be great in your professional life, but what about your spiritual personal life?
Yeah.
We want to be integrated or balanced, right? With these things. Because if you're not being intentional about it, right? Our relationships, family, all of it, right? Health, then we're letting something slide.
Yeah.
But that's literally what I wrote is I do think that, I'm a man of faith myself. And I think that that's part of the design, right? Faith equals letting go, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And experience obviously being the teacher right there, because it's one thing to know you need to, it's another thing to try to, but then when you see it, you can actually believe it and you say, oh, wow. Like, how'd you, how, this is something because I have friends who are looking for good quality assistants. I feel like it's a very common thing more than you think. How do you find a good assistant? Like, we're just doing ads or what are we doing?
Man,
Referral?
I've just been blessed. There are people in the company. My one now, she was a processor and she was ready to get into this side of it. And we just rolled her in here and she took off. And now
so from within the organization by transitioning them. Okay.
Yep. And my assistant before her, William, who's now a loan officer and closing a ton. He was the same way. He was a loan officer. He wasn't an assistant. He started off as a loan officer. And so interesting story with him. He started off as a loan officer and his production wasn't taken off like he wanted it to. And he worked here for probably a year. And then we figured out, okay, well, I actually went to Disney with my family. And I needed help and I didn't have an assistant. My assistant had left. And so William wasn't busy. And we were like, we're just going to let William help me while he's doing this or whatever. And he did great. And so it was like, well, let's just make this permanent. And we did. And he was a machine and pumping them out. Well, then you're familiar with Lennar, Roush Coleman, all that. Well, then he had an in with Roush Coleman before Lennar purchased them. He had a buddy that was a sales pro there, and he got in and did the meeting and told him everything we can do, and he just took off. Well, now he's one of their preferred lender guys, and so he got so busy, as busy as I was, and we had to pull him in and be like, because he wasn't doing full commission, right? He was still taking a salary and making bips off me, and I was taking half his commission on anything he closed. And we pulled him in, and we were like, "Bud, you're ready to spread your wings, pal. You got to fly." So, and he did. He's killing it. But anyway, so really proud of him. But anyways, I've just been very fortunate. There have been people inside the company.
No, that's beautiful. Actually, I think that it's worth highlighting because that's not always the case where their opportunity is afforded to other people when they kind of have earned it, right? Like one of my favorite sayings is obviously we're all going to get what we deserve, right? But we're also going to not get what we don't deserve.
Right.
And sometimes people like to stretch it a little bit and they're like, well, how much can I get? And it's like, you realize at the end of this, we're all going to know whether you deserve it or not, right? Because it doesn't lie, right? Like results don't lie. So you can say whatever you want now. But that's super cool, just being surrounded by people that want to empower others, right? For their benefit and gain in that way. I think that's super awesome, right? It's not, it should be more common. That should be the staple, I think, right? But I mean, it is business, and sometimes people are gearing toward like, okay, like they're building their business, and other people, you know, if you don't have a plan for yourself, then sometimes you're just a part of somebody else's.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, so having a really good leader that cares about where those people end up, right?
Right.
Cool. Yeah. Let's see. I wanted to ask about, what do you find right now, given your background in coaching, that how do you find that kind of helping to build and support, like how you show up for your clients, your team, like there's probably a lot, obviously, that you indicated earlier, but what would you say is something that you feel helps you show up differently in that way for your clients and your team?
Well, one thing I would say on that is in coaching, and I took this, Jimmy Johnson's one of my all-time favorite coaches, and he always said, I'm going to be really consistent. I'm going to treat all of my players differently based on what they need. I think when I was coaching, you had some kids that you really had to hammer, and they thrived when you just got after them and yelled at them. Other ones, they would cry if you did that, so you couldn't do that. You had to go up, put your arm around them, and kind of love on them a little bit. And I think there's clients that are that way too. You get some that and I usually, and I've been blessed with this. Discernment, I guess, would be the word. I'm pretty good at figuring people out pretty quick as far as what makes them tick and how you handle them. So you'll have some customers you may have to be a little harsh with at times. Others, you kind of have to coddle and try to baby along. And it just depends. So it goes back to that relationship thing, right? And communication. And those two are both together and entwined when you're dealing with people and what they need as far as how you communicate with them and what type of relationship you have with them. And my team's the same way. So my processor now, she's a little more sensitive, so I can't go in. Whereas William, I could be like, William, what the hell are we doing? And me and him, and then he'd say, shut up or whatever. And we had that dynamic. Whereas now with Gracie, I have to be a little more calm and kind and, not, and I'm not like going around yelling at people, but you get what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying. Yeah. I had it. Another way I've had that shared with me is all of us as human beings, we either gravitate toward pleasure or away from fear. And you can, motivate that, right? Like there's only two ways to get somebody to do something in this world. You either inspiration or fear, right? Like you can either inspire somebody to do something like, hey, let's get out there, like, and let's win this for the fans, or let's get out there and do this for our clients. And to other people, it's like you realize if we don't close like this loan and this loan this month, right? Like our team isn't going to hit the income goal. Right? Like, that's fear, right? And no, actually, I appreciate that because I think that it's sometimes that is an experience thing, and I can tell you from experience myself in talking with people that have not gone through that, that have not, they don't necessarily know how to apply the right tool, right? Like, or the right amount of pressure on somebody, or that's something that I think kudos to you being so intentional about your growth as a coach, right? Because you were obsessed about it. You are still the coach, right? Like, you're the coach, right? Of your clients and your team, and you bring that. That's beautiful. I think that's super cool. And uh, not everyone's as lucky as to be able to have such a valuable experience and now bring that into another area of life, business in such a meaningful way. So that's super cool.
Yeah, it's just people, man. You just people are people. So no matter what field you're doing, when you're dealing with people, it's you got to treat it the same way. So
It's so true. It's so true. All right, dude. Well, thank you so much again for taking the time to meet with me today and do this. For anybody watching, oh, and don't hop off, Drake. You need to stick around until this finishes, right? So in a second here, when I say bye, don't leave. Okay.
okay, all right, yeah, I
Um,
figured.
if you stuck around this far today, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you. Give it a like, subscribe, share it with somebody else who could use a boost in confidence regarding how they um, influence other people, right? Positively, right? Positive reinforcement, or maybe some people needing it, pushed on them a little bit harder, so that way we can grow and gain the confidence we need to be better for our team and for our clients. So I love that, dude. Thank you, Drake. Thanks for watching,
Thanks,
guys.
man. Appreciate it.
Of course.